My entire family has disowned me after I fired my sister-in-law from my company, and now my brother's marriage is completely destroyed because of what I did. I really need to know if I'm the villain here because honestly, I'm starting to question everything. If you're enjoying this drama, please hit that like button and subscribe to Who's the Villain? AITA for more stories like this. Also, drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I love seeing where you all are. Okay, so here's the full story. I'm a 34-year-old woman, and I own a digital marketing agency that I built from literally nothing over the past 8 years. My brother Jake, 29 I am, got married to his wife Madison, 27F, about 3 years ago. Madison seemed nice enough at first, bubbly, social, always posting on Instagram about being a girl boss and manifesting abundance. You know the type. She'd been working various sales jobs but kept bouncing around because, according to her, the companies didn't appreciate her potential. About 18 months ago, Madison approached me at a family barbecue. She cornered me by the potato salad and went, "So I've been thinking, you need someone with my energy and social media expertise at your company. I could totally revolutionize your client engagement." I was honestly caught off guard. My company was doing fine. We had 15 employees, solid clients, good revenue. But she kept pushing, and Jake was standing right there giving me these hopeful puppy dog eyes. Here's the thing. Jake is my baby brother, and we've always been close. When our parents died in a car accident 7 years ago, I was 27, he was 22. I became like a second parent to him. I helped him through college, let him live with me rent-free for 2 years, co-signed his first car loan. He's the only family I have left that really matters to me. So when he quietly said, "It would mean a lot to me if you could give Maddie a chance," I couldn't say no. That was my first mistake. I brought Madison on as a social media coordinator with a starting salary of $52,000 a year, which was actually generous for her experience level, but I wanted to set her up for success. The first month was fine. She showed up on time, seemed enthusiastic, posted some decent content. But then the cracks started showing. She'd come in at 10:30 a.m. when everyone else started at 9:30 a.m. When I addressed it, she said, "I'm more of a creative spirit. I work better when I'm naturally energized, not forced into capitalism's arbitrary schedules." I told her that everyone needs to follow the same schedule, and she rolled her eyes and said, "You sound just like my last boss." Then there was the client meeting disaster. I brought her to a pitch meeting with a potential client, a law firm looking to revamp their entire digital presence, worth about $180,000 annually. Madison showed up wearing ripped jeans and a crop top that said, "Namaste in bed." When the managing partner, a 58-year-old, conservative guy, raised his eyebrows, Madison actually said, "I know, right? I'm bringing authentic vibes to corporate spaces. That's what your firm needs, to be less stuffy." We didn't get that client, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up because there's more context you need. Madison had this habit of going around me to my employees. She'd tell our graphic designer, "Actually, the boss is wrong about that color scheme. Let's do it my way and I'll take credit." She'd schedule posts without approval and then act shocked when I'd have to take them down because they violated client guidelines. Once, she posted a meme about wine o'clock on a rehab center's account. A rehab center. When I'd try to correct her, she'd immediately text Jake, and within an hour, I'd get a call from him. "Hey sis, Madison's really upset. She says you're micromanaging her and not letting her shine. Can you maybe ease up a little?" This went on for 8 months. 8 months. I documented everything because I'm not stupid. I knew this was heading somewhere bad. Written warnings about tardiness. She was late 47 times in 8 months. Emails about social media posts that had to be redone. Notes from client complaints. My operations manager actually came to me and said, "Boss, Madison is affecting team morale. People are frustrated that she gets away with stuff nobody else could." The breaking point came 6 weeks ago. We landed our biggest client ever, a regional hospital network worth $340,000 annually. Huge deal for us. Madison was assigned to manage their Instagram and Facebook presence, which should have been straightforward. Post health tips, community events, staff spotlights, simple stuff. Instead, she decided to go viral by posting a video of herself doing a TikTok dance in our office with a caption like, "When the hospital client asks for engaging content," and tagged the hospital's official account. The video showed her dancing in front of a whiteboard that had confidential client strategy notes visible in the background, including budget breakdowns and competitor analysis. The hospital's CMO called me at 7 a.m. the next morning, absolutely furious. "Is this how your agency handles confidential information? Is this the professionalism we're paying for? We're considering terminating the contract." I spent 3 hours on the phone groveling, promising it would never happen again, offering a 15% discount for the first quarter. I saved the contract, but barely. My reputation took a hit. Word spreads fast in our industry. That afternoon, I called Madison into my office. My HR manager was present. I had all the documentation ready. I was calm, professional. I said, "Madison, this isn't working out. We need to part ways. You'll receive 2 weeks severance even though you've been here less than a year, and we'll mark you as eligible for rehire to not hurt your future prospects." And she lost it. I mean, lost it. She started, screaming, "You're only firing me because you're jealous that I'm younger and prettier and Jake loves me more than you. You've been sabotaging me from day one because you can't stand that he has someone else in his life." I just sat there stunned. My HR manager tried to calm her down, but Madison grabbed a framed photo from my desk. It was a picture of Jake and me from his college graduation, and she threw it against the wall. Glass everywhere. Then she shouted, "Everyone here knows you're a controlling bitch who couldn't run a lemonade stand without daddy's money." For the record, my father was a public school teacher and my mother was a nurse. I built this company with a $15,000 small business loan and credit card debt. But okay. Security had to escort her out. She was screaming the entire way through the office, telling my employees they should all quit, that I was a toxic boss, that she'd sue me for wrongful termination. It was a nightmare. Within 2 hours, Jake called me. Not, "Hey, what happened?" Not, "Let's talk about this." He called me screaming, "How dare you humiliate my wife? She came home crying, saying you attacked her in front of everyone." I tried to explain about the client breach, the documented performance issues, the broken picture frame. He cut me off. "I don't want to hear your excuses. Madison told me everything. How you've been bullying her for months, setting her up to fail, giving her impossible tasks. You're just mad that I have a life that doesn't revolve around you anymore." That one hurt. Really hurt. Because yes, I'd been protective of Jake. He's all I have. But I'd also bent over backward to make things work with Madison because I loved my brother. "Jake," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "I have 8 months of documentation, HR records, client complaints." She threw a framed photo at the wall today. Ask her about the hospital client fiasco that almost cost me $340,000. Madison already told me about that. She said you're blaming her for your mistake because you can't handle criticism. I'm done, sis. Until you apologize to my wife and give her her job back, I don't have a sister. And he hung up. That was 6 weeks ago. Since then, Madison has been posting vague Instagram stories about toxic family members and narcissistic bosses. My aunt, Dad's sister, called me and said I should have found a way to make it work for family. My cousin posted on Facebook that I'm power tripping and need to check my privilege. Jake has blocked me on everything: phone, social media, email. I tried going to their apartment, and Madison answered the door and said, "Jake doesn't want to see you. You've done enough damage." Then she closed the door in my face. My brother, the person I raised money for when his appendix burst and he didn't have insurance, the person I held while he cried about our parents, the person I drove 4 hours to pick up from a bad breakup, has completely cut me out of his life. And now I'm sitting here in my office at 11:30 p.m. on a Thursday, wondering if I destroyed my only family because I couldn't just suck it up and deal with a difficult employee. But here's what really keeps me up at night. My operations manager told me that during Madison's last week before I fired her, she was apparently telling other employees that she was planning to take what she learned here and start her own agency to compete directly with mine. She'd also apparently been taking screenshots of client files and saving them to a personal cloud drive. When I checked our systems, which I have every legal right to do as the owner, I found that she'd downloaded confidential client lists, pricing structures, and strategy documents 2 days before the hospital incident. I have logs showing she sent files to her personal email at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. I didn't tell Jake this part because we weren't speaking, but this means Madison might have been planning to leave anyway, and possibly steal my clients in the process. But now I can't prove anything because she's playing the victim so perfectly that even bringing it up makes me look vindictive. 3 days ago, my aunt told me that Jake and Madison's marriage is falling apart. Apparently, without Madison's income, and she didn't have another job lined up, they're struggling financially. Jake's salary as an assistant property manager is only about $43,000, and their rent alone is $1,850. They've had to put some bills on credit cards. Madison is apparently blaming all their money problems on me. But according to my aunt, there's more to it. Apparently, Madison has been acting differently, going out with friends multiple times a week, coming home late, being secretive with her phone. Jake confided in our aunt that he thinks Madison might be talking to someone else, but he's too humiliated to deal with it because his sister was right all along. My aunt said, "You need to reach out to him. He needs you right now." But when I tried to text Jake from a different number, he responded, "Leave me alone. You destroyed my marriage and you're probably happy about it." So now I'm the villain who fired my sister-in-law over petty work stuff and caused my brother's marriage to implode. The fact that Madison was objectively terrible at her job and possibly planning to sabotage my business doesn't seem to matter to anyone. My friends tell me I did the right thing, that I can't sacrifice my business for family drama, that Madison's behavior was fireable regardless of who she was married to. My therapist says I need to accept that I can't control how others perceive my actions and that integrity sometimes costs us relationships. But I lie awake at night thinking, what if I just dealt with her for another few months? What if I'd transferred her to a role where she couldn't do much damage? What if I'd sat Jake down and showed him all the documentation before firing her? Would my brother still be speaking to me? Would his marriage be okay? Would I still have the only family that matters to me? I built a successful company from nothing. I employ 15 people who depend on me for their livelihoods. I have clients who trust me with their brands and their budgets. I did everything by the book: documentation, HR presence, severance pay. But I've lost my brother, and I don't know if any business decision is worth that. So tell me honestly, am I the villain here? So I thought things couldn't possibly get worse after what I described in my last update. I was so wrong. The week after Jake stopped speaking to me, I tried to just focus on work and give him space. I figured maybe once he calmed down and talked to Madison rationally about what actually happened, he'd at least be willing to hear my side. I even drafted this long email explaining everything with attached documentation, but my therapist advised me not to send it yet. She said, "Let the dust settle. He's not in a place to hear you right now." I should have sent the damn email. 4 days after the firing, I started getting 1-star reviews on Google for my business. They were all anonymous, but I could tell they were fake. They mentioned things like unprofessional owner who plays favorites, toxic work environment, fires people for no reason, and wouldn't recommend to anyone. In our industry, online reputation is everything. I had to hire a reputation management service at $3,500 to try to get them removed and push them down with legitimate reviews. My operations manager, Marcus, he's been with me for 5 years, super loyal guy, 41 WEM, told me he was pretty sure Madison was behind them. He said, "Boss, look at the timestamps. They all went up between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. on the same night, and some of them mentioned details about our office that only someone who worked here would know. But I couldn't prove it was her, so I couldn't do anything about it." Then my business Instagram started getting these comments on every post. Things like, "How's it feel to destroy families?" and "Hope your success is worth losing your soul," and "Everyone should know what kind of person runs this company." I had to turn off comments completely, which sucked because engagement is important for the algorithm. Around this time, I found out through my aunt that Madison had started telling people I fired her because she refused to compromise her ethics for a client. According to her version of events, I'd asked her to post misleading health information for the hospital client to make them look better, and when she refused because she has integrity, I fired her in retaliation. Complete fiction, but it sounded believable enough that people were buying it. My aunt, who I love but who's always been a bit of a peacekeeper, called me and said, "Honey, I know there's 2 sides to every story, but Madison seems really genuine when she talks about what happened. Are you sure you weren't maybe a little harsh with her because of your history with Jake?" "What history?" I asked. "Well, you've always been very protective of him. Madison mentioned that you never really approved of their relationship." I was floored. "Aunt Carol, I was at their wedding. I gave a toast. I hired her even though I had reservations because I wanted to support them. I'm just saying, maybe examine your motivations here. Family is more important than business." That was the first moment I realized that Madison's narrative was winning. She was reframing the entire thing as a jealous sister who couldn't let go of her baby brother, and people were eating it up. 2 weeks after the firing, I got served with legal papers. Madison was suing me for wrongful termination, hostile work environment, and emotional distress. She was asking for $275,000 in damages. I called my lawyer immediately, a woman named Patricia who's handled all my business legal stuff for years. She reviewed everything: my documentation, the HR records, the client complaint emails, the security footage from the day Madison was escorted out. Patricia said, "This lawsuit is garbage. She has no case. You documented everything properly, you had cause, you even gave her severance she wasn't entitled to. But here's the problem. Even a garbage lawsuit costs money to defend. We're looking at probably $15,000 to $25,000 in legal fees to get this dismissed, and that's if she doesn't drag it out. So she's just trying to bleed me financially? That? Or she's hoping you'll settle to make it go away? A lot of small business owners settle nuisance suits for $20,000 or $30,000 because it's cheaper than fighting." I was furious. "I'm not settling. I did nothing wrong, and I have proof." Patricia nodded. That's what I'd recommend. But prepare yourself. This is going to be ugly and public." She was right. Madison's lawyer filed the complaint in a way that made it public record, and somehow a local business blog got wind of it. They ran a story. Local marketing agency owner accused of wrongful termination by family member. The article was supposedly neutral, but it made me look terrible. They quoted from Madison's complaint about me creating a hostile work environment and being vindictive toward younger female employees. I lost 2 clients that week. Both cited concerns about company stability and leadership. That was about $89,000 in annual revenue gone. My brother still wouldn't talk to me, but I heard through my aunt that he was standing by Madison completely, and that he'd told family members I was retaliating against his wife with a frivolous legal defense, when I should just admit what I did and pay her what she deserves. I wanted to scream. She sued me. I was defending myself. Around week 3, my cousin Bethany, 32F, we'd always been close growing up, called me. I thought finally, someone who's going to hear me out. Instead, she said, "I'm really disappointed in you. I always looked up to you as someone who made it on her own, but now you're just another boss who abuses their power. Madison showed me some of the messages you sent her. They were really harsh." "What messages?" I asked. "The ones where you criticized everything she did and made her feel like she couldn't do anything right." "Bethany, those were work emails addressing specific performance issues. That's what managers do. Can I see what she showed you?" She deleted them because they were too upsetting to keep, but she told me about them. Of course she did. "Did she also tell you about downloading confidential client files to her personal computer?" Bethany got quiet. "She said you accused her of that with no proof because you wanted an excuse to fire her." "I have server logs, timestamps. I can prove it." "Then why didn't you mention it before? Sounds like you're making up new excuses as you go." And she hung up on me. My own cousin. That night, I did something I'm not proud of. I created a fake Instagram account and looked at Madison's profile. She'd made it public, probably hoping I'd see it. Her recent posts were all about healing from workplace trauma and setting boundaries with toxic people. She had hundreds of comments supporting her, telling her she was brave, that I was awful, that she should take me for everything I had. One post from about 4 days after she was fired really got to me. It was a selfie of her looking sad with a caption that said, "When your own family sabotages you because they can't stand to see you shine, remember, people who are threatened by your light will try to dim it. But I refuse to be dimmed. I'm going to come back stronger than ever, and everyone who doubted me will see what I'm capable of." The post had 1,347 likes and 312 comments. My business post from that same day about landing a new client got 43 likes. She was destroying my reputation while building herself up as an inspirational figure. It was actually brilliant in a sociopathic kind of way, but then I scrolled further back on her Instagram, and I found something interesting. About 3 months before I fired her, so 5 months ago total, she'd posted a story, which I could still see because she'd saved it to a highlight reel called Boss Babe, where she was at some networking event. The caption said, "Making connections with people who actually value innovation and aren't stuck in their ways. Big things coming soon." I screenshot it. It wasn't proof of anything concrete, but it suggested she'd been planning something for a while. Week 4 after the firing, I finally did something I should have done earlier. I hired a forensic IT specialist to do a full analysis of what Madison had accessed and downloaded during her time at my company. It cost me $4,800, but I needed to know the extent of what she'd taken. The report came back and it was worse than I thought. Madison had downloaded complete client contact lists with emails and phone numbers, 14 months of pricing proposals showing exactly what we charged different clients, strategy documents for 23 active clients, our standard contract templates, internal process documents explaining how we onboarded and managed clients, financial records showing our profit margins. She'd done it systematically over 6 weeks, always late at night or early morning when she thought no one would notice. The last download was at 2:47 a.m. on the Tuesday before the hospital incident, 2 days before I fired her. My lawyer was thrilled. This changes everything. She can't sue you for wrongful termination when she was actively stealing company secrets. We can probably get her suit dismissed and potentially file criminal charges for theft of trade secrets. But here's where it got complicated. To use this evidence, I'd have to file a countersuit or criminal complaint against Madison, which meant legally going after my brother's wife, making it even more impossible for us to ever reconcile. I sat in Patricia's office trying to decide what to do. She said, "Look, I understand this is family, but she's already sued you. She's already trying to destroy your business. At what point do you stop protecting someone who's actively trying to harm you?" "Jake will never forgive me," I said. "Jake hasn't forgiven you anyway. And honestly, when he finds out what she did, and he will eventually, he might understand why you had to act." I authorized Patricia to file the countersuit. We sued Madison for theft of trade secrets, breach of confidentiality, and computer fraud. We asked for $500,000 in damages and requested an immediate injunction preventing her from using any of the stolen information. I knew it was the right business decision, but it felt like detonating a nuclear bomb on my family. The countersuit was filed on a Tuesday morning. By Tuesday afternoon, my phone was exploding. My aunt called me in tears, saying I'd gone too far and that I was trying to destroy that poor girl's life. My cousin posted on Facebook, "Some people would rather be right than have a family. Sad to watch my cousin choose money over her own brother." Jake sent me one text from a number I didn't have blocked. "I hope you're happy. You won't stop until you've completely ruined us. You're dead to me." That one broke me. I called him immediately, but he'd already blocked the new number. Madison, of course, went nuclear on social media. She posted this long Instagram story about how I was using my money and power to bully and silence her, and how she was a victim of corporate retaliation. She started a GoFundMe to help with legal fees. It raised $8,240 in 3 days. People I'd never met were commenting on my business pages calling me a corporate monster and saying they'd never work with someone who sues their own family. I lost another client. A startup that had been with me for 6 months said they were going in a different direction. That was $43,000 annually. My employees were starting to worry. Marcus pulled me aside and said, "Boss, people are asking questions. They want to know if the company is stable, if their jobs are safe. Some of them are updating their resumes just in case." I had to have an all-staff meeting. I explained the situation as professionally as I could without violating Madison's privacy too much. I told them the lawsuit was baseless, that we had strong documentation, that the company was financially stable and their jobs were secure. One of my younger employees, Tasha, 294F, had been there about 8 months, raised her hand and said, "But Madison was really nice. She helped me with some stuff when I first started. Are you sure you didn't maybe overreact to some mistakes?" I wanted to scream. Madison had been there all of 8 months, had been terrible at her job, and had stolen company data. But somehow she was really nice, and I was the villain. I took a breath and said, "I understand Madison was friendly. but there were serious performance and conduct issues that I can't fully discuss due to the ongoing litigation. I need you all to trust that I made the right decision for this company and for all of you." After the meeting, 3 people put in their 2 weeks' notice. One was Tasha. One was our junior copywriter. One was our part-time graphic designer. They all cited wanting to work somewhere with better company culture. I was losing my staff, my clients, my reputation, and my family, all because I'd fired someone who deserved to be fired. Around week 5, something shifted. My lawyer called me and said, "Madison's lawyer wants to talk settlement, both lawsuits." What are they offering? They'll drop their wrongful termination suit if you drop your theft suit and sign a mutual non-disparagement agreement. No money changes hands. Everyone walks away. I thought about it. It would end the public drama, stop the bleeding of clients and employees, and let me try to rebuild. But it also meant Madison would face no consequences for stealing from me, and I'd be legally prevented from ever telling anyone what she'd actually done. "What do you think I should do?" I asked Patricia. "Honestly, take it. You'll win your case, but at what cost? You've already lost probably $150,000 in revenue between lost clients and new business that didn't happen because of the publicity. You'll spend another $20,000 in legal fees, and your family situation will never recover if you put her through a trial. So she just gets away with it? She loses her lawsuit against you, which means she doesn't get paid. She has to pay her own legal fees, which are probably $8,000 to $10,000 at this point, and she has to stop trashing you publicly. That's not nothing." I agreed to the settlement. We signed the papers on a Friday afternoon. Mutual release of all claims, mutual non-disparagement, confidential terms, done. I thought it was over. That weekend, I saw on Instagram, yes, I was still checking Madison's profile from my fake account, don't judge me, that she posted, "Sometimes you have to accept that you'll never get the apology you deserve. But that's okay. My truth is enough. Justice doesn't always look the way we want it to, but knowing I stood up for myself is the real victory." The comments were full of people praising her grace and strength for taking the high road. She'd settled because she knew she was going to lose, but she was still spinning it as some kind of moral victory, and I couldn't say a word about it because of the non-disparagement clause. My aunt called me that Sunday. "I heard you both dropped the lawsuits. Thank God. Now maybe you can work on repairing things with Jake. Has he said he wants to repair things?" She got quiet. "Not exactly, but give him time. He's going through a lot right now." "What do you mean?" "I probably shouldn't say. Aunt Carol, please? He's my brother. What's going on?" She sighed. "Their marriage is in real trouble. Madison's been going out a lot, supposedly with girlfriends, but Jake found some text messages on her phone that made him suspicious. He confronted her and she said he was being paranoid and controlling. They've been fighting constantly. Last week he called me at midnight just crying, saying he didn't know what to do. My heart broke. Why won't he talk to me? Because you represent everything that went wrong. In his mind, if you'd never fired Madison, none of this would be happening. The money stress, the fighting, whatever she's doing, he's blaming it all on that first domino falling. But I didn't do anything wrong. I know, sweetie. I believe you. But Jake's not ready to hear that yet. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, I've heard through various family members that things have gotten worse. Madison apparently went out one night and didn't come home until 7 a.m. Jake confronted her and she said she'd fallen asleep at her friend Rachel's place. But Jake called Rachel and Rachel had no idea what he was talking about. According to my cousin, Jake moved out of their apartment last week and is staying with his friend from college. Madison has been posting Instagram stories from bars and restaurants, always with friends who are conveniently cropped out of the photos. Yesterday, my aunt told me that Jake finally asked Madison directly if she was seeing someone else. She apparently said, "Maybe I am. What are you going to do about it? You can't even afford this apartment without my income, and whose fault is that? Your sister ruined everything." Jake apparently just left without another word. I got a text from him last night. After 6 weeks of silence, he finally contacted me. It said, "You were right about her. I don't know how to process that right now. I'm not ready to talk, but I needed you to know that I see it now. She's not who I thought she was, and I don't know what that means for us or if we can fix anything, but you were right." I stared at that text for 20 minutes, crying in my office. My brother, who I'd lost for weeks, who'd called me toxic and said I was dead to him, was admitting I was right. But there was no satisfaction in it, no vindication, just sadness that it had come to this. I texted back, "I love you. I'm here whenever you're ready, no matter what." He didn't respond, but he didn't block me either. This morning, I found out from Marcus, who somehow knows everything through his wife's social network, that Madison has been telling people she's going to start her own social media consulting business. She's apparently already reached out to a few of my former clients, the ones who left during the lawsuit drama, to see if they'd work with her instead. I can't prove it, and the non-disparagement agreement probably prevents me from warning anyone, but I'm pretty sure she's using at least some of the data she stole from my servers. Patricia says, unless I can prove she's directly violating the settlement terms, there's nothing I can do. So Madison is potentially launching a competing business with my stolen client data. My brother's marriage is destroyed. Jake is devastated and still not really speaking to me. I've lost employees and clients, and probably $200,000 in revenue over the past 6 weeks, and my reputation in the business community has taken a massive hit. And I'm sitting here wondering, was I right to fire her? Yes, objectively, based on performance and ethics and business needs, absolutely yes. But was it worth this? Worth losing my brother, even temporarily? Worth all the collateral damage? Worth knowing that Jake is in pain and I can't fix it because I'm part of the problem in his mind? I keep thinking about that moment at the barbecue 18 months ago when Madison first asked for a job. What if I'd just said no right then? What if I'd trusted my instincts? Jake might have been disappointed, but our relationship wouldn't have imploded. Madison wouldn't have had access to my business secrets. None of this would have happened. But I also think about my employees, the ones who stayed, who trusted me, who needed to know their boss would protect the company and do the right thing, even when it was hard. I think about my clients who trust me with their businesses. I think about the business I built from nothing after our parents died, the thing that gave me purpose when I was drowning in grief. Could I really have sacrificed all of that just to keep the peace with Madison? Should I have? 3 of my employees have told me privately that they respect how I handled everything, that they understand I was in an impossible position, that they're proud to work for someone with integrity. But 5 people have left or distanced themselves because they think I'm a tyrant who ruined someone's life over workplace drama. I don't know what the right answer is anymore. I thought I was making good decisions, documenting issues, following HR protocols, protecting my business. But good decisions aren't supposed to destroy your family, are they? My therapist keeps saying I can't control other people's choices, that Madison's behavior isn't my responsibility, that Jake's marriage problems would have surfaced eventually anyway, that I can only control my own actions and ethics. But when I lie awake at 3 a.m., I can't help but think, My brother's wife is probably cheating on him. He's devastated. His life is falling apart. And even though he says I was right, we're still not okay. And maybe we never will be. Was I the villain for refusing to let family loyalty override business ethics? Or was I the villain for ever hiring her in the first place, knowing it could go wrong? I honestly don't know anymore. I need to tell you what happened in the last 2 weeks, because everything came to a head in a way I never could have predicted, and I still don't know if I made the right choices. After Jake sent me that text saying, "You were right about her," I gave him space like I promised. It was torture, but I didn't want to push him. Every day I'd check my phone hoping for another message, some sign that we were going to be okay, but nothing came. Radio silence for 5 days. Then, last Monday morning at 6:47 a.m., my phone rang. It was Jake. I answered so fast I almost dropped the phone. "Can you come pick me up?" His voice was hollow, exhausted. "I'm at the Marriott on Collins Street, room 438. "Are you okay? What happened?" "I'll explain when you get here. Please just come." 20 minutes later, I was at the hotel. Jake looked like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes were red and swollen, his clothes wrinkled like he'd been wearing them for too long. When he saw me, he just collapsed into my arms and started sobbing. My 29-year-old baby brother, who I'd raised through our parents' death, who'd always tried to be so strong, was absolutely broken. We sat in my car in the parking lot for an hour while he told me everything. Apparently, 3 nights before, Madison had gone out again, supposedly for a girls' night that she'd mentioned casually at dinner. Jake said something in him just snapped. He was tired of the lies, the evasiveness, the way she'd gaslight him every time he questioned anything. So he did something he'd never done before. He tracked her phone using the Find My iPhone app they'd set up years ago for safety reasons. She wasn't at any of the bars or restaurants she usually claimed to be at. She was at an apartment complex on the north side of town, a place Jake didn't recognize. He drove there, found her car in the parking lot, and then he waited. At 11:43 p.m., Madison came out of the building with a guy. Jake described him as maybe 35, tall, wearing expensive clothes. They were laughing, and Madison was touching his arm in that flirty way she did. The guy walked her to her car, and they kissed. Not a friendly peck, a full-on making out against her car kiss that went on for at least 2 minutes. Jake said he sat in his car watching, completely frozen. Part of him wanted to confront them right there, but he couldn't move. He just watched his wife kiss another man, then get in her car and drive away like nothing had happened. He followed her home. When she walked in, she was humming and checking her phone with a smile. Jake was sitting on the couch in the dark. "How was girls' night?" he asked. Madison jumped. "Jesus, Jake, you scared me. It was fine. We just went to that new wine bar on 5th. "Which one?" I forget the name. The one with the red sign." "There's no wine bar with a red sign on 5th Street, Madison." She got defensive immediately. "Why are you interrogating me? I just got home from a nice night out and you're acting like a crazy person." Jake said he felt this eerie calm wash over him. "I followed you tonight. I saw you with him." The look on her face, he said, was something he'd never forget. Not guilt, not remorse, just anger that she'd been caught. She didn't even try to deny it. "Well, what do you expect?" she snapped. "You can barely afford to take me anywhere nice anymore. Ever since your bitch sister fired me, we're living paycheck to paycheck. Sorry if I wanted to spend time with someone who actually has their life together." Jake asked who the guy was. Madison rolled her eyes and said his name was Derek. He was a marketing director at a tech. company. Of course he was. They'd met at a networking event 2 months ago, and yes, they'd been seeing each other. 2 months? Jake had gone pale. You've been cheating on me for 2 months? We haven't slept together, if that's what you're asking. We just talk. He gets me in a way you never have. He sees my potential. But Jake said he could tell she was lying about the physical part. The way she said it, the way she wouldn't make eye contact. He said he felt like his entire reality was crumbling. Is this why you've been so different since the firing? This isn't about money or my sister. You've been checked out of our marriage because you found someone else? Madison actually laughed. Don't try to make this my fault. Your sister created this situation. She humiliated me, destroyed my career, made everyone think I was incompetent. Derek believed in me when nobody else did. He's helping me start my consulting business. He's introducing me to clients. He actually respects me. That's when Jake said something clicked. Wait, the consulting business you're starting, is he funding it? Are you using the stuff you took from my sister's company? Madison's expression changed. I didn't take anything. I documented my own work. Madison, don't lie to me anymore. Please. Did you steal files from her business? She shrugged. They're my client relationships too. I built those connections. Why should she get to keep everything when she fired me for no reason? Jake told me he felt sick. So you did steal from her. Everything she said was true. The files, the data, all of it. It's not stealing when I did the work. And you know what? Yes, I was planning to leave her shitty company anyway. I was already talking to Derek about starting something together. Your sister just accelerated the timeline by being a controlling psycho. You were planning to leave? When? Eventually. Derek was going to invest in my business. We were going to be partners. She said it so casually, like it didn't matter that she'd been lying to Jake for months, planning a future with another man. Jake said he just stood up and started packing a bag. Madison followed him around the apartment, not apologizing, just defensive. Where are you going? You're just going to abandon me like your sister did. You're both the same. You're only loyal until someone challenges you. He left without responding, drove to a hotel, and that's where he'd been for 3 days before calling me. Sitting in my car that Monday morning, Jake looked at me and said, I'm so sorry for everything I said to you, for blocking you, for not believing you when you tried to tell me. You documented everything and I called it lies. You tried to protect your business and I called it petty. You were right about her from the beginning, and I was too stupid and in love to see it. I was crying too by then. Jake, I never wanted to be right. I would have given anything to be wrong about her. I know, and that's what makes it worse. You tried so hard to make it work with her because you knew how much I loved her. You bent over backward, gave her chances she didn't deserve, and she still destroyed everything. And I blamed you for it. We sat there together, 2 orphans who'd survived losing our parents, who'd built our lives back up from nothing, now dealing with this mess. What are you going to do? I asked. I called a divorce attorney this morning before I called you. I have a consultation tomorrow. I can't be married to someone who could lie to me like this, who could cheat and then act like I drove her to it. Do you still love her? He was quiet for a long time. I love who I thought she was, but I don't think that person ever existed. I think I was in love with a performance. That hit different. Because I'd seen the same performance, the bubbly, ambitious girl who seemed so genuine at family gatherings. We'd both been fooled. Jake moved into my guest room that day. I'd offered it immediately, and he'd accepted with this relieved look, like he'd been hoping I'd ask but afraid I wouldn't want him there after everything. Over the next few days, pieces kept falling into place. Jake found out from checking their credit card statements, which he had every right to do as a joint account holder, that Madison had been charging expensive dinners and hotels for months, expenses he'd assumed were legitimate business meetings for her consulting startup. Turns out they were dates with Derek. She'd spent $4,200 on his credit card in 6 weeks. Dinners at restaurants they could never afford. A weekend at a bed and breakfast in wine country. Clothes from boutiques. All of it funded by Jake's salary and the credit cards he was now responsible for paying off. When he confronted her via text about it, she said, "You're seriously going to nickel and dime me now? After everything I've been through because of your family? I deserved those experiences. Derek treats me the way a woman should be treated." Jake forwarded me the text. I had to physically restrain myself from driving to their apartment and confronting her myself. The divorce attorney Jake consulted told him he had a strong case for fault-based divorce due to adultery. In our state, that can affect alimony and property division. But the attorney warned that Madison would likely fight it and make it ugly. "She seems like the type who won't let go quietly," the attorney said. "Prepare yourself for her to contest everything, drag it out, and try to maximize what she can get from you." Jake looked defeated. "I don't even have anything worth fighting over. We rent our apartment, we have like $2,400 in savings, and about $18,000 in credit card debt, most of which she racked up." "Does she know you've hired an attorney yet?" "No, I've barely spoken to her." "Good. Don't tell her yet. Let me file first so we control the narrative." That was a week ago. The divorce papers were filed. Last Wednesday. Madison was served at the apartment on Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, my phone was exploding again. But this time it was different. Madison had posted on Instagram, "Today I was served divorce papers by a man who claims to love me, influenced by his toxic family who never wanted us together. I'm being punished for standing up to workplace abuse. I'm being abandoned for seeking emotional support during the hardest time of my life." This is what happens when you speak your truth in a world that wants women to stay silent. The comments were split this time. Half were the usual supporters calling Jake terrible, calling me a homewrecker. But the other half, and this was new, were people asking questions. "Wait, you were seeing someone else, though? Didn't you just post about going out with Derek from your networking group? If you were going through such a hard time, why are all your recent posts from expensive restaurants and trips?" Someone had apparently connected the dots. They'd gone back through Madison's Instagram and noticed that Derek had been tagged in several posts over the past few months, posts where she'd cropped him out but left his tag visible, posts from places that clearly weren't girls' nights. A woman who identified herself as Derek's girlfriend, now ex-girlfriend apparently, commented, "This is rich. You were seeking emotional support in my boyfriend's bed. Own your choices, Madison." The post was up for 4 hours before Madison deleted it, but screenshots had already spread. My cousin Bethany, the one who'd called me disappointed, sent me a text. "I owe you an apology. I should have listened to your side." My aunt called crying, apologizing for not believing me sooner. "I just wanted to keep the peace, and I thought maybe you'd both overreacted. I should have known you wouldn't fire her without cause." Other family members started reaching out. Not all of them apologetic, but at least willing to hear my side now. The narrative was finally starting to shift. But here's where it got really complicated. On Friday, 2 of my former clients, the ones I'd lost during the lawsuit drama, called me. They'd both been approached by Madison about her new consulting business. One of them, the owner of a local restaurant chain, said, She sent me a proposal that looked suspiciously like the strategy document your team created for us last year. Same structure, same language, just slightly modified. I wanted to give you a heads up that she might be using your work." The other, a real estate company, said, "She quoted us a price that was 40% lower than what you charge, and she mentioned she had insider knowledge of what the big agencies charge versus what the work actually costs." I found that concerning, so I wanted to reach out. Both of them asked if I'd be willing to take them back as clients. They said they'd left because of the negative publicity, but now realized they'd been manipulated by a one-sided story. I wanted to say yes immediately, but I knew that taking them back would look vindictive to anyone still on Madison's side. It would look like I was gloating or trying to sabotage her business before it even started. I talked to Patricia, my attorney. She said the non-disparagement agreement didn't prevent me from accepting business from clients who approached me, as long as I didn't badmouth Madison or actively try to steal them back. "But," she warned, "it will definitely escalate things with her. She'll see it as an act of war." I made my decision. I took both clients back. Not because I wanted to hurt Madison, but because they were my clients first. I'd done good work for them, and my business had taken enough hits. I needed to rebuild. When Madison found out, and she found out immediately because the restaurant owner apparently told her directly that he was going back to me, she lost it. She sent Jake a series of texts calling me every name in the book, saying I was sabotaging her last chance at a career, that I was vindictive and cruel, that she was going to make sure everyone knows what kind of person I really am. Jake didn't respond to her. He just forwarded the text to his attorney for the divorce file. That same day, I found out something that made everything even more complicated. Marcus, my operations manager, came to me and said, "Boss, you need to know something. Tasha, the employee who quit a few weeks ago, just applied to work for Madison's consulting business, and she's apparently been in contact with Madison for a while, feeding her information about our current clients and projects." I felt like I'd been punched. Tasha's been spying on us? I can't prove it, but based on some things Madison's mentioned in her business proposals, things she shouldn't know about our recent work, it seems likely. So, not only had Madison stolen my data when she worked for me, but she'd also cultivated a mole inside my company to keep feeding her current information. It was sophisticated and calculated and so much worse than I'd thought. I called an emergency meeting with my remaining staff. I told them, honestly and directly, what had been happening. I showed them, with their permission and with Marcus and my attorney present, the evidence of Madison's data theft, the timeline of her affair, and the indication that she'd been planning to steal clients all along. "I'm telling you this," I said, "because you deserve to know the truth. Some of you have been worried about company stability. Some of you have questioned my decision-making. I want you to see the full picture so you can make informed choices about whether you want to stay." The room was silent. Then one of my senior designers, Amy, she's 39, been with me for 4 years, spoke up. "I had my doubts about how you handled the Madison situation. I thought maybe you were too harsh. But seeing all this, the calculation, the deception, the ongoing sabotage, I get it now. You were protecting all of us, not just yourself." Others nodded. My copywriter said, "I feel stupid for putting in my notice. Is the position still open?" We rehired 2 of the 3 people who'd quit. The third, Tasha, had already started working for Madison, so that bridge was burned. This past Monday, exactly 8 weeks after I first fired Madison, Jake, my attorney Patricia, and I had a meeting to discuss next steps. Jake's divorce was proceeding, but slowly. Madison was contesting the fault-based grounds, claiming Jake had no proof of adultery despite the text messages and the credit card statements. She was also claiming he owed her alimony because she'd been unable to work due to wrongful termination trauma. My attorney said we had enough evidence to potentially reopen the criminal case for theft of trade secrets, especially with the new information about Tasha acting as an inside source. But doing so would mean depositions, testimony, possibly a trial. It would keep me and Jake tied to Madison for months or even years. Or, Patricia said, you can let it go. Focus on rebuilding your business, let Jake's divorce finalize, and move on with your lives. Sometimes the best revenge is just being successful and happy. I looked at Jake. What do you think? He looked exhausted. I just want it to be over. I don't want to spend the next year fighting her in court, watching her play victim on social media, dealing with her lies. Can we just let her go? So that's what we decided. No criminal charges, no further legal action beyond Jake's divorce. We're just done. Patricia warned us. She's probably going to continue bad-mouthing you both. She's going to try to build her business, and she might even succeed for a while using your stolen data. You won't be able to stop her without more legal action. Can you live with that? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Then I said, she can have the data, she can try to build a business, but she doesn't have what actually made my company successful. The relationships built on trust, the reputation for integrity, the years of proven results. She has a cheat sheet, but she doesn't have the knowledge or character to build something lasting. Eventually, clients will see through her. And you know what? I was right. Sort of. Madison did launch her consulting business. She got a few clients initially, mostly people who didn't know the full story or who were attracted by her low prices. But within 3 weeks, 2 of them had dropped her. One left a review on her business Facebook page, which she quickly deleted, but I saw a screenshot that said, unprofessional and overpromised results. Used generic strategies that didn't fit our brand. Would not recommend. The other client apparently asked for a refund after Madison missed 2 meetings and delivered work that was almost identical to examples she'd shown from her previous agency, aka stolen from my company. Her relationship with Derek apparently ended too. According to Jake, who heard it from a mutual friend, Derek's company found out he'd been helping a potential competitor by sharing industry contacts and giving business advice to Madison. He was fired for conflict of interest. He blamed Madison for the whole situation and broke things off with her. So now Madison is alone, scrambling to keep her failing business alive, facing a divorce that's not going her way because the evidence of her affair is overwhelming, and dealing with a reputation that's finally starting to show cracks. Meanwhile, Jake is living with me, going to therapy, slowly rebuilding his sense of self. We have dinner together most nights. We talk about everything, our parents, our childhood, what went wrong with Madison, what he wants for his future. Last week he said, I'm sorry I chose her over you. I'm sorry I let her poison me against the one person who's always had my back. I told him what I really felt. I don't blame you for loving her. I don't even blame you for defending her. She was your wife. That's what you're supposed to do. I just wish you'd been willing to hear both sides before deciding I was the villain. I was scared, he admitted. Scared that if you were right about her, it meant I'd made this massive mistake marrying her. Scared that I'd wasted years of my life. It was easier to believe you were wrong than to face that maybe I'd been fooled. That's the thing nobody talks about in these situations. Sometimes people stay mad at you not because they really think you're wrong, but because accepting your right means accepting something painful about their own choices. My business is stabilizing. I've got my 2 former clients back plus 3 new ones. My remaining employees are more loyal and motivated than ever because they saw me stand up for what was right, even when it cost me. I'm not back to where I was before all this started, but I'm getting there. Last night, I was working late in my office, probably around 9:30 p.m. Jake knocked on my door with 2 cups of coffee. "You're working too hard," he said, handing me one. "Yeah, well, I've got lost time to make up for." He sat down across from my desk. "I've been thinking about everything that happened. You asked me once if any business decision was worth losing family over. I remember. I think you had it backward. The question isn't whether the business was worth losing me. The question is whether I was worth losing your integrity. And I'm glad you chose integrity, even though it hurt." I started crying. Not sad crying. Just this release of tension I'd been holding for 2 months. "I never wanted to choose," I said. "I wanted both." "I know. But Madison forced your hand. She put you in a position where you had to either compromise everything you'd built or risk losing me. That was her manipulation, not your failure." We sat there for a while, drinking our coffee, not talking, just being family again. This morning, I got an email from one of my new clients, a tech startup with serious funding. They want to do a 6-month contract worth $95,000. They said they'd heard about my agency through word of mouth, that multiple people had vouched for my integrity and work quality. The founder wrote, "In this industry, reputation is everything. We were told you're someone who does the right thing even when it's hard. That's exactly who we want to work with." I showed Jake the email. He grinned. First real smile I'd seen from him in weeks. "See? Good things happen to people who refuse to compromise." "Yeah, but it took losing almost everything to get here." "Maybe that's the price of integrity sometimes. Maybe it's supposed to cost something, or everyone would choose it." So here I am now, 2 months after firing my sister-in-law, trying to figure out if I'm the villain of this story. I lost clients, I lost employees, I lost weeks of sleep and probably years off my life from stress. I almost lost my brother, the only family that really matters to me. Madison faced consequences too. Her marriage ended, her business is struggling, her reputation is damaged. She lost the cushy job where she could coast. She lost Derek. She lost the sympathy she'd been milking on social media. But here's what keeps me up at night. There are still people in my extended family who think I'm the villain. My cousin posted on Facebook last week about people who value money over relationships and tagged me. My aunt, while apologetic, also said she wishes I'd found a way to be more patient and understanding with Madison. There are still comments on my business Instagram from people saying I'm vindictive and power-hungry. Just yesterday, someone wrote, "Imagine being so insecure that you have to destroy your brother's marriage because you can't handle him loving someone else." And there's a part of me, a small quiet part that speaks up at 3 a.m., that wonders if they're right. What if I'd just dealt with Madison for another 6 months? What if I'd transferred her to some role where she couldn't do much damage? What if I'd eaten the cost of her incompetence just to preserve family peace? Would Jake's marriage have survived? Would he have figured out she was cheating on his own without me being the catalyst? Would he have been better off not knowing the truth about who she really was? My therapist says I'm not responsible for Madison's choices, that her affair, her theft, her lies, those were all her decisions, not consequences of my firing her. She says Madison would have found a way to blow up her own life eventually, with or without my intervention. But I don't know if I fully believe that, because the timeline shows that Madison approached Derek at a networking event about 2 weeks after I fired her. What if she only turned to him because she was angry and hurt and looking for validation after losing her job? What if my decision to fire her directly led to her affair? Jake says that's nonsense. He says Madison was already downloading my files and planning to leave weeks before I fired her, which means she was already checked out of her marriage and her job. The affair was just the next step in a pattern of selfishness and deception that would have surfaced eventually. But I wonder. Here's what I know for sure. 1. Madison was objectively bad at her job. The documentation proves it. 2. She stole confidential business information. The server logs prove it. 3. She lied repeatedly to Jake and to me. The messages and credit card statements prove it. 4. She tried to destroy my business out of spite. The fake reviews and stolen clients prove it. But I also know, 1. I could have said no when she first asked for a job, and none of this would have happened. 2. I could have been more careful about hiring family, set clearer boundaries, maybe put her in a different role where the stakes were lower. 3. I could have tried harder to repair things with Jake instead of letting weeks go by with minimal contact. 4. I could have taken the settlement earlier and avoided some of the public drama that damaged both our reputations. So, am I the villain? I genuinely don't know anymore. I made decisions that were right for my business, right for my employees, and right for my own integrity. But those decisions had devastating consequences for my brother, who I love more than almost anything in this world. I chose professional ethics over family peace. I chose documentation and rules over grace and patience. I chose to fight back against someone who was trying to destroy me, even though fighting back meant ensuring that my brother's marriage couldn't survive. Would a better person have found another way? Would a more compassionate person have sacrificed more to keep the family intact? Or would a weaker person have let themselves be walked on, their business destroyed, their reputation ruined, just to avoid making waves? I'm writing this at 1:17 a.m. on a Tuesday night. Jake is asleep in the guest room. My business is slowly recovering. Madison's divorce attorney sent over a settlement offer yesterday that Jake is probably going to accept because he just wants it over with. My therapist appointment is in 9 hours, and I'm sitting here asking myself the same question I've been asking for 2 months. Did I do the right thing? The honest answer is, I don't know. I think I did the ethical thing. I think I did the professionally responsible thing. I think I did the thing that protected my employees and my clients and my business. But the right thing? I'm not sure anymore that there was a right thing in this situation. I think there were just impossible choices, and I made the ones I could live with. I didn't choose to fire Madison because I'm cruel or vindictive or jealous. I chose it because she was failing at her job, violating client trust, and stealing company information. Those are fireable offenses, regardless of who the person is related to. I didn't choose to countersue her because I wanted revenge. I chose it because she sued me first, and I had to defend myself and my business with the evidence I had. I didn't choose to take back my former clients to sabotage Madison. I chose it because they approached me, and my business needed to recover from the damage her smear campaign had caused. But the consequences of my choices, Jake's devastation, Madison's affair coming to light, the family division, the public drama, those happened whether I intended them or not. So I'm putting this question to you because I genuinely need outside perspective. If you were in my position, what would you have done differently? At what point does protecting your business and your integrity become less important than protecting family relationships? Should I have sacrificed everything I'd built to keep my brother happy with a woman who was lying to him anyway? Am I the villain for refusing to enable someone's incompetence and deception just because she was family? Or am I the villain for not finding a way to handle this that didn't detonate my brother's entire life? If you made it through this entire story, thank you for listening. Please hit that like button and subscribe to Who's the Villain? OT, if this story made you think. And in the comments, I really want to hear your honest opinion. On a scale of 0 to 10, how much do you think I'm at fault here? And who do you think is really wrong in this situation? Me for firing her, Madison for everything she did, or Jake for not believing me from the start? I need to know. Am I the villain of this story, or was I just someone caught in an impossible situation who did the best I could with bad options? Tell me the truth. I can handle it.